Revolution Radio proudly presents live from Phoenix, Arizona, the Truth Denied Talk Radio with host Roxy Lopez. Join us here for topics you won't hear about on mainstream news, such as chemtrails, GMOs, nutrition, and conspiracy facts regarding your personal sovereignty. Humanity is 7 billion strong. We are the majority. And now, live from the Valley of the Sun, your host, Roxy Lopez.
And welcome to The Truth Denied. Thanks for joining us this evening. It is November 8th, 2013, almost the end of the year. My goodness, it went by pretty fast. What a crazy week this has been, right? First of all, I must just mention, with this whole Obamacare thing, I'm not even going to get into it because you all have probably heard enough about this. But that the president actually went live and apologized to the American people because he simply made a mistake when he said over 1,000 times in our own recorded history now, very recent history, that if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your doctor or your caregiver, you can keep your doctor or your caregiver. And now 160 million people are getting dropped from their policies, and they're trying to roll them in to Obamacare, and the website doesn't work. And of course, nothing's been lifted from the American people. I mean, we have dates to comply with. And it just goes on and on. And with the tax laws associated with this, I don't know if you realize this, people, any of you who are working for a company or a corporation who is paying your premiums for your medical insurance is now going to be considered an income. So if they're paying for your family, let's say $1,000 a month for you and your kids, which is cheap, you're going to add another $12,000 a year to your income, throwing you into another tax bracket, paying taxes on money you never received. This goes beyond my comprehension. And the fact that the President of the United States has made an apology, instead of the apology going something like this: I apologize for this loophole that seems to be in the Health Care Act, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get to the bottom of it and resolve it immediately. Therefore, everything's off the table until this is resolved. No, instead he just says, I'm sorry, I guess I got it wrong. I guess you can't, because the new laws, in order to qualify for medical insurance, you have to have certain qualifications that he said we didn't need to have either. And so if your old policy doesn't meet the Obamacare policy, you're getting dropped because it doesn't meet what the requirements are by the law of the land now. America, I am saying this, and I'm only going to say it once, and I mean it. If you're buying into this Hollywood script movie that's being played in front of us, if you're buying into this, as this is all just accidents that have been happening, please, you need to get your head examined. I don't mean to be mean. I don't mean to be cruel, but I'm saying this is beyond obvious. And in order for anything to change that is revolving around the subject matter of Obamacare, I think that the people of this country need to step up and simply say the words, I will not comply. This government is not listening to the voice of the people, and we need to get a voice in gear. Next segue, my goodness, another big week. Art Bell quit Sirius XM. It's been on there since September 17th. I am hoping he's got, if you want to go to darkmatters.com, he's got a test on there. Take the test. I did. Wanted to know if this new free live stream type of deal is working well. And so far, everybody that's commented on the stream there has said it works great. It does. I tested it out. It works awesome. And I've got a feeling that I don't have too much inside information other than he's going to go another route that's going to be good for the people and give him more freedom as well. And so I wouldn't say Art's going to be gone for too long, but I do not like the disgusting rumors upon rumors that I'm hearing about what really happened there. I can't substantiate them, so I'm not going to repeat them. But let me just give you a hint that I think this has a lot to do with something called Coast to Coast. And I'm going to leave it at that. How about that? Great week. And it's Friday, so kick back and enjoy the conversation. I'm going to open the phone lines, second hour. I'll give you the number when we get closer to that time. In case any of you have some questions and you want to call in. If you're in the chat room, please, by all means, welcome to the show, and go ahead and post your questions. If you're not in the chat room and you're listening on a device at this moment and you'd like to be in the chat room, simply go to freedomslips.com and join the chat room. Join us there. There are a lot of neat people in there that you can talk to as well. And I welcome you one more time. My guest this evening is a return guest. I just love her. And I love her work, and I love her spirit. Just a real spirited individual, offering multi-award winning Crop Circle and UFO documentaries for open minds, like minds, and seekers. Patty Greer is an amazing woman. She dives into the epicenter of the Crop Circle phenomenon in England, laced with ancient spiritual history, sacred sites, and stone circles. Druids and croppies expose the magic of the land where crop circles have appeared for centuries. Filming in 2006, 7, 8, 10, and 11, Patty Greer offers some of the most illuminating and compelling crop circle footage ever. If you want to check out her site, it's Patty Greer, that's GREER.com. And, of course, she's linked up at thetruthTonight.com. Go ahead, by the way, if you check over to thetruthTonight.com, go ahead and look at the schedule page and look at the phenomenal guests that we have for the remainder of this month. By the way, Patty was just interviewed on Coast to Coast, speaking of Coast to Coast, September 1st. So you can, I think you can download that interview. She also does music videos, and she has tons of awards. They're too long to list, but the Moondance Gaia Award, Moondance Audience Favorite Documentary Film Award in 2010, the Wake Up Call, anybody listening, Crop Circles Update, the Wake Up Call 2012, we're already in it. 4 stories, 1 event, other worlds. The list goes on and on. It's all located on the Truth Tonight website. She's just a fun person to talk to. Very real, down to earth, very compelling as well. And we're going to get into a couple of discussions here that need to be spoken about. Absolutely need to hit the airwaves. So I really would like you to pay attention, because something is going on this planet. Not something. A lot of things are going on this planet that are really infiltrating those who are speaking the truth, those who are doing documentaries like Patty, those who have websites that are exposing truth. Something is going on, people. Activist groups are getting infiltrated by government disinfos, COINTELPRO, all the rest of it. You're already aware of this, but it is even so much thicker than that I can't even wrap my mind around it. And we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about that as well tonight. But please welcome my wonderful friend and documentary filmmaker, Patty Greer. Patty, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Roxy.
Tell me, what are you doing right now? What's been on your plate for the last couple of months?
Well, for the last month, I burrowed in and did something that I have never done in this much short record time. When I was in Roswell speaking at the UFO conference in July this year, Stanton Friedman was there. I love the guy. You've interviewed him, I imagine, yes?
I have not interviewed him. Hook me up.
Stanton Friedman is a nuclear scientist, and he's one of the guys that in the 60s was in on all of the secret projects, M12, the secret satellites, and I mean, he even shows a check where it's for $1,000 from M12, signed by Mr. Klaus. So he has been involved for so long. He knows so much, and he's written 10 or more books. But my favorite thing about him is that he's a total cynic. He knows everything. And my favorite title is Science Was Wrong. And he talks about it. He says, I don't know what it is, why they have to deny everything like it's their job. But he said, I've spent my last 14 years just writing books about all of the famous people saying really stupid things. So he's got 4 rules for debunkers, which is basically what you and I and all of the UFO researchers and experiencers are dealing with it on a regular basis, which is the debunkers, the people that are choosing to not be ready to accept the reality of where we are today. And that's all it is. It's a matter of just saying, no, I'm going to sit here stubborn and I'm not listening. You know?
Right. Well, and it does confuse, like, for instance, if somebody's new to the subject matter, or they're at their first conference, let's say, and they just got like an earful, and then, they run into somebody at that conference even. This is how shady these characters are. They're just showing up everywhere. And sort of just tell you, it's not real, or whatever they have to say about it. Any subject matter, UFOs, ET contact, anything to make you feel off your middle, off your balance, off your reality check. And, sometimes with somebody that's new, it can get them, thinking, oh, yeah, if it was real, it would be front page news. You're right. And sort of give up on the whole thing, which, I think you'll agree with me with this, Patty. We have to know this stuff. This is part of our history. This is part of who we are right now. And so much has been denied us. So much information has been suppressed. And on the underlying level, your subconscious knows that this has to be real. And, I think it just causes people to be so unsettled and so misguided. It's sickening, really. It's sad. How are we ever going to truly evolve and pop out of this whole disinformation matrix so that we can just be human beings and be connected and be, telepathic and be what we need to be and want to be? I mean, do you ever think about that?
Yeah, but I think that every day is an opportunity for each one of us to be that, to be fully conscious. And then everywhere we go in the world, everyone we speak to, we walk up to them with all that we are, knowing that everything is speeding up, that we are really moving into the new paradigm. And we bring that with us, even if we just buy something at the grocery store. When we communicate with that person, if we look them in the eye and just give them a little bit of our super juju, I think it's contagious. And there's so many people waking up now that this is a really exciting time where we are no longer sitting still. No longer sitting still. My movies, I have been I used to really cry about it. I've had my 4 movies suppressed by a distributor. I've had 3 rotten distributors, but the recent ones are really a lovely treat. And they've actually hidden my movies from the public, and they've got me for 10 years. And I never say their name because they're just, sitting there like vultures waiting to sue me for slander. But, it used to really hurt my feelings that I was so sucker punched that I would have handed them over like with a bow on top, a gift. Today, every day I wake up and I look at the beautiful place I live, and I realize that every day I have contact with higher dimensional beings. Even though maybe today they're stealing $1,000 from me, or I got to be careful with the words I choose, but, it doesn't matter anymore. I look down the mountain and I think, God, that must be awful to wake up every day and have your job be to destroy people. You know, that's not living. Those of us that can look past what the president just did or all these systems that are completely collapsing around us. And now that we have the internet, everything is being exposed. It's no longer television news. Most of us are awake enough to realize the news is now owned and operated by those who want us to be confused, is a polite way to put it, right?
Right.
You know, so we're not getting real news. And then we open up the internet. And the hardest thing, like you were saying, walking into a room, you don't know who's friend, who's foe. You don't know what story is real. And if, you know, maybe Fukushima is really not going on, but if it really is going on, holy crap, why is that not on the news?
Right.
But everything that's really going on is not on the news. The only thing we're going to see now is fear. Fear-mongering, who got shot, who got hit by a car. So what we need to do every day is to wake up and say, I'm not dealing with the system. It's part of the old way, and I'm stepping into the new. So the cool thing that I'm doing now, which is really exciting, one of my Crop Circle movies got picked up by PBS, and in less than a month, it will start playing on Channel 12 PBS for their big holiday funding drive. My Crop Circle movie is going to get out to tons of people. Very exciting.
That's fabulous.
Yes. So what happened?
Congratulations. That is absolutely fabulous. So basically what you're saying in a nutshell is never give up either, because you've also been through the ringer, literally, and then good things do come. Eventually they do come through. It sounds like persistent, and I know you, and you're very persistent. So yes. It eventually comes. And I love what you just said about being fully conscious, that we all have this ability to become fully conscious. And I have to just interject this to everyone listening. Patty is absolutely right. Take it wherever you go. Talk to people about the truth wherever you go, the bigger truths that are being denied us. You have set such a perfect example, Patty. I do the same thing. I've gotten over being too afraid to bring up a certain topic, and I actually did that today. Somebody, that looked really sort of wouldn't even be into the topic of quite a few things, government secrets, et cetera, UFOs, this and that. Man, we had the greatest conversation. And she didn't know that I knew, and I didn't know that she knew. And, we just kind of stumbled into another dimension of a conversation, and it was awesome. And she brought her notes to the table. I brought my notes to the table, and it was so much fun. And when we departed, we hugged and said, right on, I'm so glad to know you. And then, of course, they were like, we want you and your husband to come over for Thanksgiving dinner, and let's talk more about this. And if you can't make Thanksgiving, come over for Christmas, or, hey, just come over. Let's do this again, and bring a few more friends into it. So you're absolutely right, Patty. More and more people are having the conversations and not being so afraid to have the conversations.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for saying that. It's so very validating. Well,
another validating thing I want to say, because I watched you go through a little meltdown on Facebook. I watched Jerry Pippin have another stroke. I watched Kevin Smith leave us. And I really want to give a shout out of credit to how hard you guys work, how incredibly brave you are. To be a woman in this field is not easy. And I will say endurance, you mentioned that a while ago. I am patting myself on the back. Listen to me, Pat. I can't even believe it sometimes that I am still making movies, but I can't stop. They don't even let me sleep. These beings that are downloading all this information in me. The reason I was really tired an hour ago is because they started at 2 a.m. And when I say these beings download information to me, this is how I made 5 movies. I never trained. I never did research. I didn't open a book, watch other people's movies. None of it. I went over to the crop circles to heal my body from something, mercury poisoning from silver fillings. And I had no idea about making movies, and was within 6 months of the experience I had of being taken in a crop circle. When I was brought back to that crop circle in 2007, I opened my eyes and I saw things I had never seen before. And within 2 weeks, I had taken 1,100 photos of crop circles. I was flying in these little planes, which I got to tell you, I would not do today, with a big, huge movie camera. I mean, the first year I didn't have a camera. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just had a small Instamatic and took 1,100 photos. But it's interesting, within 6 months of that trip, I came home with those photos, and I had hired a film crew completely off the wall, who does this, to come and film me and my friends in the crop circles for a whole day, because I wanted to bring it home to my friends and family. I was so blown away by what I saw, and I'd been there 9 weeks, so I knew all the, what I would call important researchers that come in from around the world every year. We call ourselves croppies. They call us the front line, but you know, it's the regular people that are there for the real reason. You know, you had somebody earlier before the show write about the debunkers or the human circle makers, which I very, very rarely spend time on a radio show, but I want to acknowledge that a lot of your listeners might not really know a lot about crop circles. So I want to explain just from the start, in my opinion, and that's all I can go by, and I've laid in more than 100 crop circles, so my opinion has some validity behind it. I don't have any doubt in my mind that many of the crop circles, especially in England, are made by extraterrestrial beings. I do believe, because I have filmed them, that these extraterrestrial beings show up in balls of light over the crop circles. And the last movie that I made was so over the top. Not only did I meet these two men from Belgium that had had a sighting 4 hours earlier of balls of light over a crop circle, they also watched illuminated light beings with arms, legs, and a head come out of the ball of light. And I realized I had photos of the doorway of the ball of light, with the doorway where those beings came out. This is the way my movies happen. It wasn't like I planned it. They throw it at me. They hand it to me on a platter. It's so effortless to make movies. And you haven't seen me much on Facebook the last month, have you?
No.
Guess what I did the last month?
And welcome back from the break. And Patty, right before we find out what you were doing the last month and why you haven't been on Facebook for a month, just a couple of quick questions backing up here. You described this doorway to the ball of light in which these beings were exiting out of, if I got that right.
Yes.
What did that look like?
You know, it's funny that I would just throw that out, and I was pretending that I was going to give you the explanation of crop circles, and then I went right to the graduate course.
Yeah.
Let's go back to really the crop circles. For those of your audience that don't really know a lot about crop circles, they are messages left in large acreages of wheat, barley, corn, oats, canola, where the wheat grains are bent, hundreds of thousands of them, side by side by side by side by side, all of them bent at a many times 90-degree angle in perfect sacred geometry to leave the viewer, who is either flying over or walking up to, with a message, typically in a subliminal art method such as sacred geometry, where there's a center dot, a centerpiece, and then it swirls down, just swirls down in a circle all around it. And then, boom, the walls are just meticulous, standing wheat like nothing ever happened. But within that big, huge circle of a standing wall of wheat is this swirl down circle with the centerpiece standing up. So when we walk into a crop circle, sometimes there have been as many as 409 circles in one formation. I mean, absolutely astounding. And the energy inside the crop circles, I will say, I've been in a lot of them, is not of this world. What happens to me physically walking in a crop circle is that when I'm 10 or 15 feet before I even reach the entrance of the crop circle, I can feel it. All of a sudden, the hair is standing up on my arms, goosebumps head to toe, tingles on the top of my head. It's like somebody hit a switch and my body lit up. It's really very, very noticeable. And the last time I went in 2010 and 2011, I brought a man that I was living with for a few years. And he said, I'm not going to pretend, I was like, hey, honey, no problem. If you feel it, you'll feel it. And if you don't, that's okay. Some people don't. Most people do. So we walk in this formation, he and I and this woman from Holland. And as soon as it hit, I knew we were close because the hair went up on my arms. It was just, and I have little teeny girl hair on my arms, but it's just like, whoa, you could really notice. And I turned around and looked at him to see if he was affected too. And he had his arm up in front of his face and his mouth just hanging open. And he was like, whoa, that's out there. So, it's not just the experts, the researchers, the regular crappies. Most people walking into a field, there is this enhanced sense of electromagnetic energy at a higher frequency, a higher vibration. And most people really notice it. When you walk into the circle and toward the center, it gets stronger. So when people say, what are crop circles? This is physically what they are, is the wheat is swirled down in all these circles, and sometimes diamonds and sometimes different shapes, but mostly circles. And when you look at them from the air, a lot of times they create a picture or sacred geometry or binary code. And when I say a picture, a pictogram, where you see, obviously, it's a thunderbird. Obviously, it's a phoenix bird. Obviously, this is an octopus. Obviously, this is a squid. And so when you look at some of these pictogram years, when the circle makers were giving us really specific messages, the most alarming one, in my opinion, was 2009. When we were given, and usually it's sacred geometry where it's just like a pretty flower of life or, some kind of thing that looks like a gear, some kind of interesting geometry of a circle with different variances. But this particular year, 2009, we had 6 or 7 different birds. We had the owl, the sparrows, the thunderbird, the hummingbird, all these different birds. And then we also had fish. They were swirling. They were just skimming, but they were obviously big, huge, 2 acres of an octopus in a field of wheat. I mean, not normal. And by the end of 2009, we all went, what was that about? They gave us a dragonfly crop circle, and you could even see the veins of the wings. It was so meticulous. And 9 months later, the BP oil spill happened in April of 2010, and we lost millions of birds, millions of fish, dragonflies. We lost millions of earth creatures from the BP oil spill. I think, my heart says without a doubt, crop circles are messages helping humanity evolve. They've given us warnings for decades, blatant warnings read by scientists, read by computers, the binary codes. You can read effortlessly. It is not a mistake. And then when you go into the field and see it's brittle wheat, leaving a binary code, it's remarkable. Remarkable.
That's absolutely stunning. When you talk about the sacred symbols, sacred geometry, what do you mean by that?
Everybody has a different perception of what that means. What I see in the sacred geometry of crop circles is a pattern that is gentle on the brain. There's a center dot, and all the other patterns come out from it symmetrically. They match across the circle. So it's a pattern where everything is even and consistent. Sacred geometry is mathematics geometry. Sacred brings it into the spiritual realm. And when we look at crop circles, and we talk about sacredness, there's more crop circles in one area of the world documented than anywhere else in the world by far. And that area is called Wiltshire, England. And in this area, speaking of sacred, are more sacred sites, I think, than anywhere else in Europe. We have on one side of this epicenter of crop circles, it's about a 40 square mile radius. In the center sits one of the oldest stone circles in all of Europe, called the Avebury Stone Circle. Big, beautiful sarsens, huge standing stones where they've been reading the seasons and the time of day for thousands of years there. People have walked across Europe to be in the energy of the Avebury Stone Circle. The Druids have gone there for thousands of years. And then off to the east side is Stonehenge, which most people know of, and off to the west is Glastonbury. And in this area, within this circle radius around the stone circles, we have more crop circles documented than anywhere else in the world. And they're not just laid arbitrarily, they're laid when we, at the end of the summer, push pin in every location of a crop circle. If you've got a crop circle at Hatbox Farm, you stick a push pin there. And if you've got one at Eastfield, you stick a push pin there on the map. And at the end of the summer, in England, we usually have 60 or 70 crop circles in this one area. I mean, it's stunning the news isn't talking about it because they have not gone away. Crop circles are still everywhere. Last week we had one in Brazil. Beautiful crop circle in Brazil last week. So this area of England, when we look at a ley line map, which is a map of the sacred sites, and this gentleman, Paladin Jenkins in England, did a ley line map where he marked lines between all the sacred sites from one to another to another. And it looks like a spider web because there's so many sacred sites in this area. At the end of every summer, when we compare the push pin locations of the crop circles to the ley line map, we find that almost every crop circle is not only sitting on a ley line, but on a crossing of two ley lines. Serious PowerPoint.
That's
really
amazing.
Cool. Yeah. So 96 or 7% of the crop circles have been noted to be sitting on a ley line. There's also a high percentage in the 90s of most crop circles are sitting over an aquifer of water. So when we think about that, possibly when you think of higher dimensional beings bringing information to humanity, and you want it to go into the earth, into the planet, into the waters, which are a very high percentage on this planet and in our bodies. When you want to really help a species, us, evolve, which I think these circle makers are doing, you not only put the pattern in the field to show the humans the message, but you're also sending that sacred geometric pattern into the water below the crop circles, into the aquifer, evolving the energy and the vibration of the water under these sacred areas, which then go out to all the other waterways. I do believe this is very intentional and very positive for humanity.
Absolutely. And, you know, with that in mind as well, Patty, how, you know, what is the oldest crop circle that we know about? Like what year possibly is the oldest crop circle formation?
The one that we've had recorded in history is in the 1700s.
Okay.
And then they did cartoons of it where they called it the Devil's Ring, because the religious people came in and said, oh, if we can't explain it, we can't produce it ourselves. We're going to have to call it work of the devil. Sorry if I laugh.
Righty.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, these crop circles have been so blatant, kind of like everything now is so blatant. And when this person that wrote in before the show mentioned, I have a back door to the kids that are in England or the men that are in England making the crop circles, and I know that they're the ones. Well, I'll bet you know somebody that tells you fracking is a good idea too. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean her in particular or whatever that person, whoever that is, really, with that name. But what I'm saying is there's so much misinformation. Yes, there's humans out there making crop circles, but so what? Really? Boring. And I did meet some one night at a pub. These guys were out in a field making a crop circle. I had been in crop circles probably from 10 in the morning. It was 10:30 at night. I had no excuse to still be up with my boots on, but I was wiped. I just can't stop when I'm over there. It's just like dessert all day long with the crop circles. So I was at the only pub that was open, grabbing some soup at 10:30 at night, and I see these three English blokes come in, and they kick the door in because they're so tough, and they ordered 2 beers each, 1 for each hand, and they were large guys, pink cheeks, and one guy was soaked head to toe. He was wet, and the other guys could not stop laughing, and of course, where do they sit? Right behind me. I was just like, oh, please don't make me throw my water behind me,
Right.
I was so tired. I'm like, oh, God, 3 stupid drunk guys, whatever. Turns out, how lucky, what a blessing. These 3 guys, the first pounding of the beer was laughing hysterically at their friend who had wet his pants. And these guys, I mean, tears rolling down their faces. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll enjoy this. So I leaned back. And sure enough, these 3 guys were out in a field at 10 at night making a crop circle. Yes, humans are out in the field making crop circles. Well, these 3 guys were out there with their boards and ropes or whatever they were using, and all of a sudden, a real circle maker, one of the balls of light whizzed past them. And the one guy screamed, wet his pants, and started running to the car. The other guys couldn't even speak. They were like so scared. And all 3 of them went running to the car, slammed the door, and realized who they were dealing with.
That is truly amazing. Let me ask you a question about these guys. Did these guys, after the fact, like you said, now they were just challenged by who they're actually dealing with? Did they change their tune? Did they become like maybe crop circle investigators as opposed to faux crop circles? Trying to confuse the public, whatever, for fun and games. Whatever happened to those guys?
I have no idea. I didn't ask their names. If they knew who I was and that I was going to tell this story for the next 10 years of my life, every time somebody says, oh, my friends are crop circle makers. Yeah, it's all humans. It's like, well, okay, you want to hear about them? So, Roxy, the story gets even better. When they hit the second beer, ooh, Daddy, they started really loosening up. And the first guy goes, man, I could swear I saw a guy in a trench coat with a hat. The second guy goes, you're kidding me. I saw it too. There were 3 of them. They were like, I thought I was imagining it. And then the third guy acknowledged all 3 of them not only got whizzed by a ball of light, but before the ball of light came through, all 3 of them saw shadow beings in the crop circle while they were making the crop circle. And all 3 of them didn't say a word to the other until the second beer, because all 3 of them couldn't believe what they had just seen.
Sounds like a Men in Black or something.
It was,
what's the difference between the MIBs and the shadow people wearing hats?
Yeah, I think these were shadow people. I think these were circle makers that were, maybe, how we humans, because we're such a tribal species, like to go to football games and watch people slug each other and get hurt and tumble and win, throw the ball, whatever. And I think for them, when they're watching us, they must just think we're almost funny. Like we're just such a foolish species. When I was beginning, I was starting to tell you about Stanton Friedman. Remember in the beginning?
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Go ahead.
When you were asking me, so what have you been doing? And I said, well, I disappeared.
Yeah, you did. And I definitely want to find out why you disappeared from Facebook for over a month and what's been up.
Yeah. Well,
what happened?
Yeah, my life has kind of wondered what happened. And so in July, when I was in Roswell speaking about crop circles, Stanton Friedman was speaking about UFOs and space vehicles and advanced propulsion. I thought, I'm here, take the movie camera. So I interviewed him. He's so brilliant. And because he and I get along and he's such a great guy, and once I get behind the camera, because I'm a girl, I make very feminine edged movies. They have really good music. They have lots of visuals, and I'm funny. I don't like to have talking heads that don't smile. If you're not laughing, you don't make it in the mix. If you're not funny at all, you're not going to make it in the mix. And it's not a subject that's necessarily funny, but there are different ways to look at it. And Stanton just rips me up. So I was like, while I'm here, I may as well film him. You know who else was there was Travis Walton and Steve Pierce.
Oh, my.
And have you interviewed Travis?
I have not. I've spoken to Travis, but I have not interviewed him. He's an interesting man. I mean, he's very, even when he's done coast to coast, a couple times, let's see, last year and the year before, I think he was with James Fox. He only spoke on the air for about 10 or 12 minutes. So I'm not sure. I mean, I know that he's very private, and I don't blame him.
Yeah. Well, after 37 years, I think it was 1975, 85, 95, 05. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Steve Pierce is finally coming out, who was another witness. And it was an interesting thing to be with both of them. And, here I am. For me, when I bring my camera, they know, the extraterrestrials that work with me, they know to guide me very directly, because I always do what I'm told. So I interviewed Travis and I'm sorry, Travis and Steve, yes. Mm-hmm. And they were amazing. I think that I probably got the best interview I've ever seen them do. And because I'm a girl, I edited down it just is juicy. It's amazing how real everything is. And I just took the footage and I kind of put it in the kitchen, just kind of left it there. And a few weeks ago, I guess a month now, I was invited and given a press pass to an advanced technology convention, which is called Breakthrough Energy Movement. This guy came in from Holland. He's done them in Europe and in America. And he booked it here in Boulder, Colorado, right in my town. So I was like, well, I'll have to go down anyway, because Foster Gamble from Thrive is there, and I like him a lot. So, and there's all these free energy devices. I'd love to see what they're doing. And of course, I was guided to grab my camera. So I went down there. Only on the last day did I know I had a press pass. So I got down there and I made use of it. I found myself interviewing the most amazing people and looking at really brilliant scientific machines that are going to help us get off all this dirty oil, all this dirty polluting crap, and destroying the poor Mother Earth. I mean, this drilling and fracking and sneaking into towns and paying off the officials before the citizens realize they're going to have to move in the next year. They'll no longer be able to breathe the air or drink the water. And today's big news was that they just had a whirlwind whopper find in Australia, the largest shale oil find ever. Poor Australia. So what happened was, I'm sitting here looking at these simple devices that, of course, Tesla brought and all the other scientists brought, and the spaceship technology, which, of course, we've had since the 40s with so much documentation. So I filmed a bunch of people, and I realized that I had a complete movie. And it wasn't one that I had planned, but it was one that I had planned. And I have almost completed it in a month.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. And inclusive. You did the breakthrough energy movement, interviewed quite a few of them. You interviewed, I imagine, in this same film, Steve Pierce and Travis Walton, correct? Same film.
Yes. Yes.
Good stuff. Excellent. And let me ask you something real quick. This breakthrough energy movement that you're talking about, did Steve Pierce and Travis Walton, did they have anything to contribute to the free energy grid at all?
They weren't there. They were not there. They were at
Yeah, I know they were at a separate place, but did you have any conversation about that with them?
No.
No. Okay. So theirs was just basically their experience.
Yes.
And folks, if you don't know Travis Walton and Steve Pierce, we're talking about a movie called Fire in the Sky. And Travis Walton is one of the most famous cases of abduction. It's a fantastic, I mean, and when I say fantastic, I don't mean, oh, good. It's fantastic. It's so out there what occurred to this man. Doesn't he live in Arizona?
I'm not sure where Travis...
I think he does.
I know that, yeah, they had a group of 7 loggers. They were out in the woods in 1975, and they were just loggers, kind of country bumpkin guys, and they were driving back in the truck and talking about their day out in the woods. The next thing they knew, they saw a craft off to the right, and Travis got out of the car, and all of those other guys watched him get sucked up into a ship. Sucked up. I mean, they watched it. It's to me, it's just absolutely amazing.
It's crazy amazing. And like you said, 1975, I mean, you know, other than the Betty and Barney Hill, I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, it was creepy. It was really scary. It was like, oh my God. And the fact, I mean, he did get worldwide recognition, but I don't think if they never created Fire in the Sky, the Hollywood movie, I don't know that the world would have ever really known about this abduction case. But yeah, it's a fantastic story. All right. So back to, you put this movie together. That's what you've been doing. You went off into movie making land, it sounds like.
This is how they all happen.
And this is how they all happen. Like you said, they just get, here you go. And then you're off and running again. And what is this particular documentary movie film? What is it going to be? What is it going to be focused on, Patty?
It's really about moving forward. And it really rips apart the truth of what money is, and the history of money, and how important it is for us to let go of that tool of enslavement. A few of the speakers really spoke about that. What it is we lay out all of the different things, but not crying over chemtrails, not crying over fracking, but really looking at it for what it is. And there's even a 13-year-old.
Of course, I want to thank you all for joining us. We went off the air for the break and had a little conversation. I guess the regular phone number, I promised I would let you call in second hour. That's like hardly ever done around here. But Patty's so much fun. But our number apparently isn't working because another studio forgot to float it over our way. That's what I'm understanding. So Thomas, our producer, has given us a number that you can call. You might want to write it down because it's not located on the station anywhere. It's 229-299-5320. That's 229 299-5320. If you're in the chat room, he's put it in the chat room for you. If you want to give us a call, feel free to do that. And real quickly, before we get back to this fabulous woman, Patty Greer, I want to say thank you to everyone. You know, we are listener supported, and Revolution Radio has grown out of bounds. I mean, we are just exponential at this point in ratings, in listenership, etc. We have you to thank for it, and thank you all for always, passing on the shows to other people who then in turn become listeners, and it just is amazing. The truth is hard to find. The truth is not in your mainstream media. Alternative media is taking the reins. This is about you and me. We, the people, humanity of this planet, we have got to stick together. And one of the ways we are able to do that in uniform together as one big family is you, the listeners, have helped us immensely. So continue the donations. Keep us on the air, please. We just love you for it. So thank you. Patty, before we went to the top of the hour, before the break, you were just talking about, the leaders of the new world, the youth. Can you continue with that? Because that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the whole essence of the movie is the fact that now we're in an age where we have the internet. We are exposing all the fraudsters now, and they can't hide. Most of us aren't even interested in the television anymore because it's so bought and paid for by those that don't want us to evolve. So we have this amazing capacity on the internet to reach across the world in seconds and gather information on any subject under the sun. So even though there's peaceful protests across the world, or the million masked march with Anonymous that of course the news isn't going to tell you, or a fabulous crop circle in Brazil, you will find it on the internet. So the power to the people is coming back by this amazing venue where we have Roxy Lopez show. I mean, how many days a week do you give it?
Oh, well, at this point too, I'm going up to 3, and maybe 4. So, and that's something that I haven't shared with my audience yet. I haven't given, I've got a lot of things in the works. 2014, let me tell you something. 2014 is going to be big, 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 big. So, I can't really, I'm not at liberty, but at this point, yeah, thank you.
Roxy for president.
Hey, they tried to get me to run twice for Congress, in Hawaii and in the state of Arizona. And I didn't do it. I turned it down, and for a number of reasons. But Roxy for president? No. We have to change the world. No president. We've got to get rid of this stinky lying government and in bed with the corporations, birthing these old ancient ideas of slavery on this planet. I mean, it's over. And thanks for what you said, by the way, about the ability to change the world simply by mass information, like social media and everything like that. The ability to do that. You're absolutely right. You and I were talking about on the break, the critical mind. We are tapping back into the critical mind. We are beginning to problem solve now. That takes a little brain work, and I think we got very complacent on this planet and sort of for whatever reason, I'm not going to get into the reasons. I'm not, going to go there. But for whatever reason, we got very complacent and just sort of let a lot of things slide. And you're so right. In just a few short years with social media, the information is instant, and we are having the ability to be stunned and every day ripping down the lies and bringing out the truth. So you're absolutely right. It's like we're in a quickening of information.
Absolute quickening. I interviewed Richard Dolan. You know Richard Dolan?
Yes.
Yeah. He said something really amazing on camera that I didn't realize. He said, do you realize we've only had smartphones and YouTube and Skype for 10 years?
Yeah,
11
and
years
it
ago, we
is.
didn't have any of
Yes.
this.
Well, we didn't have any of it. And, really think about it. Think about it, listeners. When did you actually start regularly using YouTube or Facebook or a smartphone? When did that, that's in the last 2, 3, 4 years right there. So even though the technology was available is what I'm saying, people they didn't start using all this stuff on a regular basis, like a part of their integrated life until about 4 years ago.
Yep. So here's a huge one. I have 3 different inventors and brilliant guys that bring to my movie the new 3D printing. Have you seen this yet?
I have, and the only reason why I have seen it is because I have a friend who is a one-of-a-kind jewelry caster. He's a friend of mine for the last 20 years, and he actually started using that about a decade ago. So, yeah. And then I've got another person who's on our team, on the Truth Tonight team, who's actually using the 3D to make jewelry, that he's starting to put out a jewelry line. And it is, tell him what it's about, Patty, because it's crazy cool.
It's crazy cool. Well, I have a pretty extreme story that is in this new movie, which is a gentleman knew that I'm friends with Ralph Ring, who was one of the inventors of the spaceship in the 60s that actually took off and then came back in front of the press. And then, of course, it was taken by the government. But while he had it, he designed the technology, re-engineered the spaceship, and Otis Carr and Ralph Ring. So they're working on it again is just an understatement. And they're doing it in a few different continents just to make sure it doesn't go away again. And they were getting all these different bits and parts milled. And there was a particular part they could not get milled. So they called this guy, who I interviewed, and said, can you 3D print this part for us? And Goa said, oh, I'd love to try. So sure enough, they sent him the digital specs, and layer by layer, what you do is you drop in a powdered substance, or if it's going to be a plastic thing you're going to 3D print, then you put in a big, long, thick plastic thread. And so it's either powdered mix or a big thread, a thick thread of whatever the material is that you want to become your product. And they actually milled these metal pieces for the spaceship, shipped them off to Australia, and it worked.
It's just amazing. It's amazing. And now, when you say it worked, what are you talking about? What part worked? The 3D part or the putting together these pieces?
The 3D part worked for the ship. Okay. And screwed down, bolted down, and it was exactly what they needed. So this is going to revolutionize manufacturing, and it's going to make a real big difference in mass production. Whereas when somebody brilliant comes up with an incredible design, he can put it out on the internet, and within minutes, thousands of labs across the world can create these pieces. I mean, it's going to really enhance people's personal abilities to create what they need without having to go and order it or buy it. And, it's going to bring down, most likely, because a lot of them are using recycled plastic to 3D print something in plastic.
Right.
So it's also recycling. Everything really needs to go back to sustainable. So my herbalist, Brigitte Mars, she's written 10 or 11 books on raw foods. She goes into this beautiful array of how important it is to stop fighting nature, but to work with it, which is what we're saying about energy. Instead of crushing and banging and exploding and gasoline and all this, we could really be making energy in a way that is no sparks, no gas, no pollution, no repairs, and no parts. And that's the punchline of my new energy segment of this movie. The Cyril Effects generator is designed there's a prototype, and this is a generator that every family could have and buy one time in their life and never have to replace it. And it can power an entire home for a family for a lifetime without.
How does the generator run? How does it run?
You'll have to look at it in the movie, but you could actually go online, Searl, Searl, Searl generator. They're out there. Okay. And again, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist, so I don't want to try and describe it as he did. But I am going to bring it to the public because it's out there. And it, again, is one more thing that's going to revolutionize everything. So even though I wrote a soundtrack where, you know, I'm singing and there's chemtrails, you know, and there's no more GMOs, you know, it's like, you know, we're pointing out the crap. Yes. Right. Chemtrails, GMOs, the pipeline that they're going to try and rip through America, Mexico, and Canada. I mean, really? What? Are we that stuck on stupid that we're going to rip apart the planet and ignore the fact that we already have everything we need to stop the destruction? So this whole movement of consciousness, this whole movie that threw itself in Patty Greer's lap and said, make me, is really about exposing everything on the internet, because we got to be done with the banksters. We got to be done with all these crime jobs that are getting away with it. It is the way of the world back then, but it's not the way of the world now. And this young kid that's 13 years old, one of my favorite lines, he gets up and he says, I'm just a kid, but that's no excuse for me to sit and act as if this doesn't matter. He said, you know, you're saying that we're the generation of tomorrow. Well, guess what? We're the generation of today, and everything that you are doing to this planet, you are leaving for us. And it's like the 1%, he says, are coming here and they're having this big, huge party and they're just throwing stuff everywhere and leaving this huge mess for us to clean up. It's really amazing. I love this kid. And he also does his hip hop killer cut that I opened the movie with. That's called Live As If Our Planet Matters. This is the essence of the movie. Yeah, we're really screwed up right now. We are in a money system. We're at the end of 100 years of the Federal Reserve, an experiment that didn't work, that the American people didn't want 100 years ago, and it still doesn't work today. How we are going to change the paradigm of the money on this planet is going to be an interesting ascension. That's going to be one of the hardest tricks, is to see where we evolve to. But I think that ultimately the people that I find to be my heroes are a lot of the people in this movie. You know, people that are saying, why would I go and buy products full of chemicals when right outside my house, these dandelions that, I mean, the people next door are not only putting chemicals on and they're shooting them, they're shocking them, they're trying to get rid of them. And meanwhile, the dandelion is one of the 5 most nutritious vegetables on the planet. And when we look at all these threats to our health, we have to look at the weeds, as we call them, that have sustained life through all kinds of execution. The dandelion, the root is good, the flower is good, the leaves are good in the spring, the whole plant is edible, and we've made this enemy of it for what? Grass? That prissy little plant that needs all this water and chemicals to stay green? Who told us that? So it's a lot of really letting go of who told us that. And my theme song is called Who's in Charge Here? You know, it's just really time to stop blaming the cabal for doing it to us, but to realize every day as we look in the mirror, we're the ones creating this life. And we're the ones that are going to have to stop supporting these systems that no longer work.
Absolutely well said. We've got a caller on the line. Caller, do you have a computer on? Because I'm hearing a lot of feedback.
That's coming from Patty. She's got her mic.
Oh, Patty, you might want to.
The speakers are turned up too loud and her mic's not muted.
I haven't changed a thing. But
you do.
La,
okay,
la, la,
Mona.
La, 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 la. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Mona, are you on the line?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Mona. Thanks so much for calling The Truth Tonight. Did you have a question for Patty Greer?
Not necessarily, but if the crop circles, if they're through the ley lines and the dowsing lines and the other lines like that, how do you think that might correlate with the earthquakes and other things that are going on? Because everything is phonically connected. Maybe they're helping release the pressure by providing those geometric forms. You know, there's so many avenues out there of why any of this is occurring.
That's
a great question, Mona. That's a great observation. Go ahead, Patty.
Well, it's an interesting thought. I don't know about earthquakes, but I would pretty much guarantee that earthquakes, many of them lately, are being caused by fracking. But, you know, I do think that the crop circle energy does shake things up. But I've never really correlated it to an earthquake. Not to say it hasn't happened. I think that's interesting.
Well, it's the one part of the 188 grid to where if we're putting out all these nervous tension, chaos energies, right, where's it going to go? It's going to go to the place most fragile to be affected, right? At least that's the way I would think it could happen. But if we've got crop circles as messages, then like you said about the birds and the other things that were pre-warned that once you see them, now you don't, you know, that there might be some other kind of correlation, especially since you said England and, you know, Merlin used to live there and all kinds of fun things happened. So that's about it right now. Over.
Right. You know, she brings up a point, though, that makes me want to go back to the crop circles and talk about locations. And two formations that I thought were really, really profound were double formations in 2001 and 2002. And interestingly enough, it was right after 9/11, and that was in 2001. The following summer, we had a double formation in England. That was not only in a farm field, but it was in a farm field with a line of telecommunication towers. And in my opinion, when you think of circle makers flying over, looking at fields like a canvas, and 2 years in a row, they lay a double formation, both of them extremely profound binary code that all people can read that know how to read binary code. And both of them were in fields with telecommunication towers, a line of them. So they're thinking, not only do I want to put it down here, I want it to be able to go out to lots of people. I mean, pretty brilliant, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So
Sure.
The binary code, months after 9/11, the following summer, was the alien face and the disc. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, I forgot all about that until you just said it.
Yeah, super creepy looking. The alien face definitely looked like an alien. And right next to him was this huge disc with binary code. Now, when you look at it and you're looking at crop circles, if it's a green pattern, then it's very moist, lovely barley or wheat early in the season, and you can bend it and it doesn't break. When you look at it and it is brown, let alone light brown like tan, you're talking July, end of July, early August, they're ready to harvest it. Very, very brittle, which to me is beyond impressive that they can get hundreds of thousands of bits of wheat angled, bent, without breaking. The difference between human-made and not human-made is that the human ones with the boards and ropes, when those guys go out there, as long as they don't get buzzed by the real circle makers, they can make their little crop circle. And in the morning when we go in there, there's no buzz, there's no hair going up on your arm, and everything's broken. It's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty from the air, but it's human made. And when it's not human made, the bend is not broken, but rather it blows into some kind of a bubble, and something heated it from the inside, the wheat. Hundreds of thousands of pieces of wheat were heated from the inside, blown into a bubble. Some of them pop and have a little burn, and bent flawlessly. Some to the left, some to the right. And when you fly over the crop circles or look at the pictures, sometimes you'll even see shading. Like, how do they do it? It's so remarkable.
Maybe they do it like that 3D printing machine. Maybe they have a design and they just turn it on and it goes, wow, making light of it. Yeah, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Patty, can we address some of the questions that have been coming out of the chat room since the beginning of the phone show? There is one in particular that I think is fascinating. I don't know if you know anything about it. They wanted to know if you had any information about luminous crop circles that appear in the ocean.
Wow. Interesting you'd ask me. I've seen them. And mine weren't luminous, but they were definitely circles on the water in the ocean in Hawaii. I was walking out and I personally saw them. And I remembered thinking, oh, must be whales out there. And it was, all within the rocks along the shore. And then I realized that it's all within the rocks along the shore. There's no whale that can get in there. And I kept staring, and it was these perfect circles. And it was abnormal because there were waves crashing and all the water was moving everywhere else but where I was looking. There were these perfect circles like oil slicks or like a whale spouted. And it was within the rocks where the water was rushing. So I actually went back to get the bartender and I brought him out and I said, is this normal? What am I seeing? And I didn't want to say I'm Patty the crappie girl and I'm weird. I just, I don't want to think I'm imagining this. And he just stood there staring and he said, I've never seen anything like it. So I think that when you have a willingness to expose yourself, like whoever's asking the luminous question has hopefully seen luminous circles in water. My motto is the more you look, the more you see. I'm always looking at the sky. And I live in this beautiful mountain town, and I'm the only one that posted on my local mountain town Facebook page. Anybody noticing the drone every day? So I took pictures of it. I'm like, how could nobody notice there's a drone sitting over our town?
How come nobody notices chemtrails?
Right?
They don't. You can even ask them about big white lines in the sky, and they're like, "Huh?" So yeah, you're right. More or less a drone. I'm with you on that. Let's get to another question. Does Patty believe that crop circles are messages beamed through our universe or made by UFOs? I think we kind of covered that in the beginning, but go ahead, Patty.
I do believe that they're made by UFOs. And in the first 10 minutes of my recent movie that's about to show on PBS called Crop Circle Update, The Wake Up Call, in the first 5 minutes, you will see balls of light lay a crop circle down. The only guy in the world that hit play on his camera rather than sat there with his jaw on his chest actually got footage of the Oliver's Castle footage in England, in Wiltshire, where these two balls of light went over a crop circle, laid the field down in seconds, and then a third ball of light came over, checked the formation, approved it, and left. For some reason, I bring home that footage for the reason that I had been taken, and they decided that I was somebody that they were going to use. When I brought home those 1,100 photos I mentioned, and I had hired the film crew for an 8-hour day, which turned into 12, to come film me and all my friends, I bring the footage home. I have no idea what to do. I go on Craigslist, hire an editor. I got really lucky. This great kid, 26 years old, comes to the house, and we laid out this movie, my first movie. And it's called The Wake Up Call. Anybody listening? And it was inspired by the alien face in the disc with the communication towers right near it. And So that was my first movie. And I lay the whole movie out and I'm like, how can it be this easy? And at the very end, I said, oh, I've got permission to use the Oliver's Castle original footage of the balls of light laying a crop circle down. So I said to the editor, that's the ending of the movie. Lay it in. Yay, we're done. I'm so excited. Wow, that's a great ending. And all of a sudden, I'm in my house in Boulder, Colorado. The chills start up. I've got hair standing up on my arm. I've got goosebumps head to toe. I look at the editor and I said, oh my God, I feel like the circle makers are here. And he said, you look weird. And I stared at him and I said, reverse the footage. He said, why? I said, I don't know, just do it. So he reverses the Oliver's Castle footage, and I said, slow it down. He said, how slow? And I said, I don't know, 30%. Just like that.
Continuing the conversation with Patty Greer, filmmaker, Crop Circles and UFOs. Patty, you'd mentioned the latest or the last movie you did, Crop Circle Update. What was the rest of the name of that?
Crop Circle Update, The Wake Up Call.
The Wake Up Call.
Yeah.
Okay.
For some reason, and again, I give whoever they are, the circle makers, a lot of credit with my work because it really has, it's come almost, to me, it feels unnatural. In the beginning, it felt unnatural, but now it's effortless. When, I think a lot of people that are working with higher dimensional beings, it's a willingness that, it doesn't take effort. Like your show, for you, you're reaching out to such a vast audience of intelligence. We're not wasting time like maybe I was 10 years ago. Before I got into this, I don't want to say wasting time. I had a whole lot more fun than I do today. Because now that I know all this stuff, it's like life's really heavy now.
Yeah,
but
right.
I think that the more we educate ourselves with higher dimensional information, the easier our lives will become. And interestingly enough, because I'm in the process of, really looking for the most important information and material, what I was getting up to with the two important crop circles in 2001 and 2002, which was when 9/11 happened, the alien face and the disc message was really, I think, very relevant. And here's what it said. When they deciphered the binary code of the disc, of the alien face and the disc, they found that it was an ASCII code. And an ASCII code can be divided down into symbols, which then can be deciphered as letters, and then they can read it as words. It said, and I'm going to remind us, this was right after 9/11, beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. Believe there is good out there. We oppose deception. Conduit closing. To me, that's really a heavy message, and I might pull it into the new movie. And it's so funny, when I started this new movie with all the new energy and the 3D printers and, the getting rid of money and looking at really what happened. One of the most amazing things about the money system, and this is going to be a shock, and I hope I don't get thrown in the lake for letting somebody say this on camera, but this man that I interviewed about the money system, he was at the event, Breakthrough Energy. His name is Dr. David Martin. You might want to get him on your show. Without a doubt, the most brilliant money talk I've ever heard, Dr. David Martin. Okay. He laid it out like nothing I've ever heard. And what he actually explained was that the FDIC that insured us for $100,000 a while ago, now it's up to $250,000, is insuring us on something that is an illiquid asset. In other words, FDIC, he said, we're not really insured. With our money in the bank, we're so not really insured. So, God, I hope they don't pull the rug on Wall Street and surprise everyone that's not listening or noticing the chemtrails. And, as far as the GMOs, and the finding solutions. Today I took myself out to brunch. I just wanted huevos and I wanted coffee. And I get to this restaurant up the mountain because I live in the woods. And I went to this, I just was so looking forward to the coffee before the huevos. And she brings me the crap little creams with the chemicals, the little round things in the plastic. Hey, it'll last like 30 years and you don't have to refrigerate it. Well, that's 2 clues, right?
Right.
So I took one of those creamers home because the writing is intentionally too small for you to read. And I actually grabbed a magnifying glass. This is years ago. And I read what's in those little crap containers. Sorry if the owner of the company's listening and you've made a wad of money this year. But if you read the ingredients of those little fake half and halves, you will never, ever do it again. And I was so sad because I really love that cup of coffee in the morning, but it's got to have half and half. And it's got to be real. And, everybody's got their little thing. But I actually didn't have coffee today because that was the offering. I'm choosing, and this is what I'm saying to you, Roxy, and all of us, we have to choose not to eat that piece of food that's got an RFD chip in it. We need to not drink that Diet Cola that's packed with stuff that's going to eat away at our brain. It's really not intelligent to sit around and stick your head in the sand anymore. This is your only body. We don't have an option right now, maybe to stop the chemtrail program because there's too many people that believe that that's normal. But all of us are breathing it. And the air is definitely changing. And I hiked one day and I saw stuff that was sprayed all over the forest up here. I was on this beautiful trail and I took photos of all these different bushes and plants and trees, and it looked like something had dumped a bunch of syrup on the forest. And a few days later I went back, and I always had my camera, and all those plants and trees and bushes had damage. Like some of the leaves had actually turned red. Some of them had grown like pimples on the leaves. Whatever it was they dumped, it affected the plants quickly, visibly, and not in a good way. So for me, because I live in the mountains, I love wildlife. I have a fox that I hand feed almost every day. What I'm noticing is that the wildlife has diminished like nothing I've ever seen. This is really serious. And I can't believe that many people in the world right now are still drinking Diet Cola and going to the drive-through junk food. And, those are the people that are probably still voting for the system, still supporting the system. The only way we can change things is to stop helping it function. I can't be a part of any of it anymore. That's why I live in the mountains. But I think that more of us have to really educate ourselves as to what's really going on and stop acting as if it's okay. All of us together are going to be changing what we're moving into. And we're right on the precipice of really serious threat to all of our health and the health of the generations, if there are any, unless we change things. So when the circle maker said, beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises, they did it visually for us, and we got to see it. I had almost forgotten about the audible ET message, and I want you to tell me if you remember this. I don't know if you're as old as me, but in 1977 in the United Kingdom, the guy was talking on the news, and it was all about, hanging people and whatever, not hanging, but the jails and whatever. And all of a sudden, there was this ET interaction that took over the English television broadcasting entire site for 5.5 minutes. And this alien voice gave a warning to humanity. Do you remember that?
I do not.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
I wonder if we can get a copy of that.
Well, it's in my new movie.
Well, then,
And here I
then
am.
you answered the question. We can get a copy of that.
That's right. That's right.
When's this new film coming out anyway?
Oh, God, I'm so fast. It could be a month from now that I'll have it on my website. So
then you'll come back. We're going to arrange to do another show with you, and you'll
come
back.
Yeah. I can't wait to tell you. I can't wait to tell you the name. It's such a good name, but I don't want to say it until the movie is copywritten.
Okay.
So, what I do want to talk about, though, is the 5 movies that I have now totally expose the reality of crop circles and the real circle makers. And I know that it's probably why I've had problems with distributors, 3 different ones. It's intentional that when the information is this valid, this visible, this real, and told with absolutely no fear, that it really scares the fear mongers, and they do everything they can to hide it. But I'm out there. And even though I had my wings clipped for the last year and a half, I was like, well, okay, what next? So I went out and I started doing public speaking, and I'm really delighted to say that in February, I am one of the speakers at the International UFO Congress Convention, which is my favorite event of the year. So I'm super excited to be a speaker there, and I will be world premiering my brand new movie.
You really deserve it. That's fabulous.
Well, thank you. What I really deserve is income.
You're one of the most honest people when it comes to that, Patty. And a lot of people do not talk about that, the income factor. And you and I had a conversation off the air about the income factor. I don't know, a couple months ago. And you really put it out there. Let's talk about that. I want to catch you on this, because this actually folds right into the support that those who are on the front lines on this planet, working our butts off for nothing. What is a way that people could help us? What is a way that people can help you, Patty? What do we need? Because I think we need just more than someone to buy a documentary or this or that or whatever. I think it's bigger than that. So, what do you think? What is the support you are looking for?
Oh, God, my dream would be somebody who wanted to offer a grant for the movie or offer a contribution. I don't sit around like a dreamer, but I was having that dream. I shouldn't have been compromised these last few years. I have 4 great movies that shouldn't have been hidden. And, for whatever it is, for me, Roxy, the thing that I always come back to at the beginning and end of every day is, I am paid because I have contact. That's my gift. It is such a huge gift. And I'm single. I've been single for a little while, but I have contact. I never feel alone. And last year in December, when I realized what the scoundrels were doing with my income from the movies, I went out on my deck and I put my hands up to the sky. And I was really sincere, and I was not in tears. I was just like in hideous I just had a feeling of hideousness about humans acting this badly. And I put my hands up to the sky and I said to them, you guys have to help me down here. I love doing this for you, but you got to bring me some decent humans. And I was really sincere. I was really saying, I can't keep doing this. I've made 5 movies. I paid for all of them. And they've gone across the world. I've won wonderful awards. I get thank you letters almost all the time. That's my payment. But again, in an integral world, we do get to receive the gifts. So I got my arms out to the sky. I'm like, you guys have to help me out here. I really need some decent humans. And the funny thing is, the few times I ask them, they'd never give me what I ask for, what I think I want. They give me what I need. And what happened last December was, the very next day, I had my first visible sighting. I was completely blown away. I'm on the phone with Jose Escamilla. We're having a filmmaker talk, and all of a sudden, I'm watching, a big, huge flock of geese come over the lake, and then they took a quarter turn, And I realized they didn't have any wings. And I realized they went from white to silver, and they had a plasma field around them. And I'm on the phone with Jose, and it was our first conversation. And all of a sudden I'm having like this, oh my God. Oh my God. I can't even talk to him. I called it a sighting-gasm. It was just
right.
like, I was so blown away. This thing had plasma, and they were, I thought it was geese, and all of a sudden it definitely wasn't. And so 2 days later, I had my second sighting, and then I flew to California to spend time with my mother and family, and I sat out in their yard, and all of a sudden I had my third and fourth in the course of half an hour, and that was it. I realized that when I put my hands up to the sky, I was asking for help, and instead of giving me decent humans, they said, "Here we are, la la la." And they just kept showing me themselves. So it's kind of a funny little dance they do with me. And what I know is that the movies that I have made with them are, without a doubt, I think the most honest movies about crop circles to date. And it's not like I'm asking people for a complimentary money, but I do encourage people to go to the website and order the movies, because it's really advanced information about extraterrestrials that really is very blatant. When we look at those stories that I mentioned about the warning about BP, that to me is very blatant. And then right after 9/11, beware the bearers of false gifts. That's very blatant. And we had Mayan calendar crop circles that were absolutely stunning right before 2012. Anybody with consciousness going into any library of crop circles will take in so much information on a subconscious level. And when I sit with a group of even experienced croppies and we lay out a crop circle photo, there's going to be 5 of us. There might be 5 different opinions of what that crop circle is saying. And in my opinion, I always say everybody's correct, because we see what it is that we need for ourselves. And depending on how our spiritual enhancement is, our vibration, our frequency, we're going to see something different than the person next to us. And we're going to get exactly what we need.
That's a wonderful thing. How do we attempt to bring this all together? In other words, and I'd said it at the very top of the show, that we're finding that people who are supposedly collectively working together, I mean, really, as a planet, we should really all be working together on all of this. I would like that very, very much. But even within our own design, in other words, I'm a talk show host in a documentary, I'm in documentaries and, whatever, you make the documentaries, which, by the way, I would love to do. But how do we even embrace, you said, give me some cool humans. And of course, they danced around you for days and said, here we are, friends, that they are to you. How do we get to that next level with humans? So I hear this story constantly, Patty, that you live over there and I live over here, and all these other, all my guests don't have a lot of humans around them.
Right.
Of, supporting humans where you can, over a cup of coffee or tea or whatever, discuss things. There's something very mysterious about that, in my opinion, and no coincidence. I don't know about you, but you sound like a pretty social person. I came out of entertainment, very social, toured the world. And the last few years they've been very sequestered. And when you talk about the downloads, that you get from these entities. Same here, and same with many of my guests. Yep. Sequestered, this is the commonality, sequestered, sort of not being able to really have those friends around them, not very social unless it's this, doing the work, which is radio and documentaries and traveling or speaking or this and that. There's something to be said about that. And it seems like we're spread out all over the planet. but we're not collective with we're not living near each other. What do you think that's all about?
Well, the planet's a huge place. I mean, yeah, we're spread out all over the place. And when we look at how important it is for us to be all around the planet as acupuncture points around the planet, we do need to be spread around. And we have the internet. We have Skype. I used to have a friend in Italy. We'd Skype and have coffee together every morning and just sit there for an hour like we were in the same room. We do have solutions. We just need to step into them. And we do have conscious choice when we go to the grocery store to vote with our dollars, to not buy crap products that have terrible chemicals in them. We have to all wake up, get our family to wake up, get our children educated so that we don't buy diet colas that are hurting us, that we don't encourage anybody to be eating really foolishly or, doing things that we just absolutely know aren't good anymore.
Yeah, and that's a sound suggestion. How do you get people to break the addiction? Because I really do think that we are addicted to money, we are addicted to debt, we are addicted to what we think we should be socially, or what we been taught or to be socially. And I think that we're addicted to foods and toxins and the whole 9 yards. I think we have to break the addiction. I think it's one big addiction, and it's really getting old.
Well, I'm going to say I am proud I have broken it. I live away from people. I skipped my coffee today, which I was dying for because my only choice was non-organic coffee with crap creamer. And I just made a choice to say no. And when I go to the grocery store, I say no. I mean, I'm not even tempted. I don't even go down the processed food rows. It's just like a waste of time. But today, I will admit, I did go into the chemical rows of all the cleaning fluids with my camera because I needed to talk about what not to do. And I will never forgive the boyfriend that came into my house and said, "Do you give me permission to show you something?" And I said, "What?" And he opened up my kitchen sink, took the trash can and slid everything under there, cleaning products, into the trash can. And I remember at the time going, "What? That's so wasteful." And I've thanked him ever since. We just really need to change our mind and stop supporting the system that doesn't work. We need to find documentaries and news outlets that give us the truth rather than filling our minds with propaganda and crap. And when we say no, one person at a time, and then you tell people, well, yeah, you and I were saying during the break, we've lost more friends. I know I've lost more friends in the last few years of being really aware of all this, because when I'm hiking, beautiful day, then the chem bombers come up, I get that look on my face. I can't help it.
Understood.
So
completely understood, and this is happening to so many people. Really, it's the same talk that it's the same feelings that you're having. It's the same thing. And some of my friends who I talk to on the phone who are in the like mind as well. We laugh at each other because I had a friend who was out gardening, and of course this was a couple of years ago, and when the chems were super latent and just blatant in the sky with crisscrosses and grids and everything, and she called me up and she said, "I can't believe it. I can't turn it off. I was out working in the garden today and those damn chemtrails were everywhere." And she said, "What's wrong with me?" And of course she got onto a social network and just, took a few pictures, posted them, and, and got back to her gardening. And I said, "There's nothing wrong with you. You're actually awake and trying to do something about it." So, those of us like yourself, Patty, who can't turn off the lies, we can't turn them off anymore. Even if we tried, we couldn't turn off the lies, the lie campaign. So
what we can do is keep exposing it, like you do with your show all the time, like I do with my films all the time. And, even if we're losing most of the friends that we used to have, we're doing our job. We're not supposed to be latent humans that sit around smoking cigarettes anymore. That was the 50s. This is a time where we really do need to wake up. And when you think about the crop circle messages and you think about any extraterrestrial messages, oh my God, when you hear this 5.5 minute thing.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to that. That took over the radio in the UK. Oh my gosh.
But you could probably go on YouTube and search UK alien message 1977, and you'll find a few versions of it. Not versions of it, but how people, put together an opening and a closing, and then it's really stunning. But what I'm seeing is that the ETs, everybody talks about the spaceships and the sightings and the lights in the sky, but for some reason they're not talking about the direct communication, which to me is just so silly. We have heard them. We have heard the ETs. That in particular was really blatant. And when you hear it, you're going to be like shook. But, we also have had the crop circles since the 1700s. Direct communication from extraterrestrials left in the fields for months at a time for humans to see. This is not accidental. It's not going away anytime soon. And in my opinion, we have everything we need to evolve as a species. One of the big ones is to open the door to the ETs and communicate back in a loving way rather than in a warring way. We're here, we're ready to do it, and everybody's fully capable. So again, I want to invite everybody to peek at my website, pattygreer.com, and check out the movies. They're pretty fascinating. Steve's was in on all of the secret projects, M12, the secret satellites, and he even shows a check where it's for $1,000 from M12, signed by Mr. Klaus. So he has been involved for so long. He knows so much, and he's written 10 or more books. But my favorite thing about him is that he's a total cynic. He knows everything. And my favorite title is Science Was Wrong. And he talks about it. He says, I don't know what it is, why they have to deny everything like it's their job. But he said, I've spent my last 14 years just writing books about all of the famous people saying really stupid things. So he's got 4 rules for debunkers, which is basically what you and I and all of the UFO researchers and experiencers are dealing with it on a regular basis, which is the debunkers, the people that are choosing to not be ready to accept the reality of where we are today. And that's all it is. It's a matter of just saying, no, I'm going to sit here stubborn and I'm not listening.
Right. Well, and it does confuse, like, for instance, if somebody's new to the subject matter or they're at their first conference, let's say, and they just got like an earful, and then, they run into somebody at that conference even. This is how shady these characters are. They're just showing up everywhere. And sort of just tell you, it's not real, or whatever they have to say about it. Any subject matter, UFOs, ET contact, anything to make you feel off your middle, off your balance, off your reality check. And, sometimes with somebody that's new, it can get them, thinking, oh, yeah, if it was real, it would be front page news. You're right. And sort of give up on the whole thing, which, I think you'll agree with me with this, Patty. We have to know this stuff. This is part of our history. This is part of who we are right now. And so much has been denied us. So much information has been suppressed. And on the underlying level, your subconscious knows that this has to be real. And, I think it just causes people to be so unsettled and so misguided. It's sickening, really. It's sad. How are we ever going to truly evolve and pop out of this whole disinformation matrix so that we can just be human beings and be connected and be, telepathic and be what we need to be and want to be. I mean, do you ever think about that?
Yeah, but I think that every day is an opportunity for each one of us to be that, to be fully conscious. And then everywhere we go in the world, everyone we speak to, we walk.
I guess you can't, because the new laws, in order to qualify for medical insurance, you have to have certain qualifications that he said we didn't need to have either. And so if your old policy doesn't meet the Obamacare policy, you're getting dropped because it doesn't meet what the requirements are by the law of the land now. America, I am saying this, and I'm only going to say it once, and I mean it. If you're buying into this Hollywood script movie that's being played in front of us, if you're buying into this, as this is all just accidents that have been happening, please, you need to get your head examined. I don't mean to be mean. I don't mean to be cruel, but I'm saying this is beyond obvious. And in order for anything to change that is revolving around the subject matter of Obamacare, I think that the people of this country need to step up and simply say the words, "I will not comply." This government is not listening to the voice of the people, and we need to get a voice in gear. Next segue, my goodness, another big week. Art Bell quit Sirius XM. It's been on there since September 17th. I am hoping he's got, if you want to go to darkmatters.com, he's got a test on there. Take the test. I did. He wanted to know if this new free live stream type of deal is working well. And so far, everybody that's commented on the stream there has said it works great. It does. I tested it out. It works awesome. And I've got a feeling that I don't have too much inside information other than he's going to go another route that's going to be good for the people and give him more freedom as well. And so I wouldn't say Art's going to be gone for too long, but I do not like the disgusting rumors upon rumors that I'm hearing about what really happened there. I can't substantiate them, so I'm not going to repeat them. But let me just give you a hint that I think this has a lot to do with something called Coast to Coast. And I'm going to leave it at that. How about that? Great week. And it's Friday, so kick back and enjoy the conversation. I'm going to open the phone lines, second hour. I'll give you the number when we get closer to that time. In case any of you have some questions and you want to call in. If you're in the chat room, please, by all means, welcome to the show and go ahead and post your questions. If you're not in the chat room and you're listening on a device at this moment and you'd like to be in the chat room, simply go to freedomslips.com and join the chat room. Join us there. There are a lot of neat people in there that you can talk to as well. And I welcome you one more time. My guest this evening is a return guest. I just love her. And I love her work and I love her spirit. Just a real spirited individual, offering multi-award winning Crop Circle and UFO documentaries for open minds, like minds, and seekers. Patty Greer is an amazing woman. She dives into the epicenter of the Crop Circle phenomenon in England, laced with ancient spiritual history, sacred sites, and stone circles. Druids and croppies expose the magic of the land where crop circles have appeared for centuries. Filming in 2006, 7, 8, 10, and 11, Patty Greer offers some of the most illuminating and compelling crop circle footage ever. If you want to check out her site, it's Patty Greer, that's GREER.com. And, of course, she's linked up at thetruthTonight.com. Go ahead, by the way, if you check over to thetruthTonight.com, go ahead and look at the schedule page and look at the phenomenal guests that we have for the remainder of this month. By the way, Patty was just interviewed on Coast to Coast, speaking of Coast to Coast, September 1st. So you can, I think you can download that interview. She also does music videos, and she has tons of awards. They're too long to list, but the Moondance Gaia Award, Moondance Audience Favorite Documentary Film Award in 2010, the Wake Up Call, anybody listening, Crop Circle's update, the Wake Up Call 2012, we're already in it. 4 stories, 1 event, other worlds. The list goes on and on. It's all located on the Truth Denied website. She's just a fun person to talk to. Very real, down to earth, very compelling as well. And we're going to get into a couple of discussions here that need to be spoken about. Absolutely need to hit the airwaves. So I really would like you to pay attention, because something is going on this planet. Not something. A lot of things are going on this planet that are really infiltrating those who are speaking the truth, those who are doing documentaries like Patty, those who have websites that are exposing truth. Something is going on, people. Activist groups are getting infiltrated by government disinfos, COINTELPRO, all the rest of it. You're already aware of this, but it is even so much thicker than that I can't even wrap my mind around it. And we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about that as well tonight. But please welcome my wonderful friend and documentary filmmaker, Patty Greer. Patty, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Roxy.
Tell me, what are you doing right now? What's been on your plate for the last couple of months?
Well, for the last month, I burrowed in and did something that I have never done in this much short record time. When I was in Roswell speaking at the UFO conference in July this year, Stanton Friedman was there. I love the guy. You've interviewed him, I imagine, yes?
I have not interviewed him. Hook me up.
Stanton Friedman is a nuclear scientist, and he's one of the guys that in the walk up to them with all that we are, knowing that everything is speeding up, that we are really moving into the new paradigm, and we bring that with us, even if we just buy something at the grocery store. When we communicate with that person, if we look them in the eye and just give them a little bit of our super juju, I think it's contagious. And there's so many people waking up now that this is a really exciting time where we are no longer sitting still. No longer sitting still. My movies, I have been, I used to really cry about it. I've had my 4 movies suppressed by a distributor. I've had 3 rotten distributors, but the recent ones are really a lovely treat. And they've actually hidden my movies from the public, and they've got me for 10 years. And I never say their name because they're just, sitting there like vultures waiting to sue me for slander. But, it used to really hurt my feelings that I was so sucker punched that I would have handed them over like with a bow on top, a gift. Today, every day I wake up and I look at the beautiful place I live, and I realize that every day I have contact with higher dimensional beings. Even though maybe today they're stealing $1,000 from me, or I got to be careful with the words I choose, but, it doesn't matter anymore. I look down the mountain and I think, God, that must be awful to wake up every day and have your job be to destroy people. That's not living. Those of us that can look past what the president just did, or all these systems that are completely collapsing around us. And now that we have the internet, everything is being exposed. It's no longer television news. Most of us are awake enough to realize the news is now owned and operated by those who want us to be confused, is a polite way to put it, right?
Right.
So we're not getting real news. And then we open up the internet, and the hardest thing, like you were saying, walking into a room, you don't know who's friend, who's foe. You don't know what story's real, and if, maybe Fukushima is really not going on, but if it really is going on, holy crap, why is that not on the news?
Right.
But everything that's really going on is not. on the news. The only thing we're going to see now is fear mongering. Who got shot? Who got hit by a car? So what we need to do every day is to wake up and say, I'm not dealing with the system. It's part of the old way, and I'm stepping into the new. So the cool thing that I'm doing now, which is really exciting, one of my Crop Circle movies got picked up by PBS, and in less than a month, it will start playing on Channel 12 PBS for their big holiday funding drive. My Crop Circle movie is going to get out to tons of people. Very exciting.
That's fabulous.
Yes. So what happened?
Congratulations. That is absolutely fabulous. So basically what you're saying in a nutshell is never give up either, because you've also been through the ringer, literally, and then good things do come. Eventually they do.
Revolution Radio proudly presents live from Phoenix, Arizona, the Truth Denied Talk Radio with host Roxy Lopez. Join us here for topics you won't hear about on mainstream news, such as chemtrails, GMOs, nutrition, and conspiracy facts regarding your personal sovereignty. Humanity is 7 billion strong. We are the majority. And now, live from the Valley of the Sun, your host, Roxy Lopez.
And welcome to The Truth Denied. Thanks for joining us this evening. It is November 8th, 2013, almost the end of the year. My goodness, it went by pretty fast. What a crazy week this has been, right? First of all, I must just mention, with this whole Obamacare thing, I'm not even going to get into it because you all have probably heard enough about this. But that the president actually went live and apologized to the American people because he simply made a mistake when he said over 1,000 times in our own recorded history now, very recent history, that if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your doctor or your caregiver, you can keep your doctor or your caregiver. And now 160 million people are getting dropped from their policies, and they're trying to roll them in to Obamacare, and the website doesn't work. And of course, nothing's been lifted from the American people. I mean, we have dates to comply with. And it just goes on and on. And with the tax laws associated with this, I don't know if you realize this, people, any of you who are working for a company or a corporation who is paying your premiums for your medical insurance is now going to be considered an income. So if they're paying for your family, let's say $1,000 a month for you and your kids, which is cheap, you're going to add another $12,000 a year to your income, throwing you into another tax bracket, paying taxes on money you never received. This goes beyond my comprehension. And the fact that the President of the United States has made an apology, instead of the apology going something like this: I apologize for this loophole that seems to be in the Health Care Act, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get to the bottom of it and resolve it immediately. Therefore, everything's off the table until this is resolved. No, instead he just says, I'm sorry, I guess I got it wrong.